Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us to another episode, a fantastic episode of Leave Looking Up. I'm Neal Ludevig. I'm one of the co-hosts of Leave Looking Up, the podcast where we have uplifting conversations about the state of the world with some of our heroes. And I'm joined by my incredible co-host, Amer Jandali. Amer, what's going on?
What up, y'all? Welcome back. Great to speak to everybody in the ether. Thank you again for bringing your hearts and your ears and whatever you're eating today. We're so happy to have you back.
Exactly. Well said. We are joined here. We are joined here by two incredible humans that are changing the game when it comes to finding your dream job and your career and your definiteness of purpose and your trajectory in life. And we're excited to be sitting down and talking to them. We've got Jerry Lee and Jonathan Javier. Is that how you pronounce that last name? Javier. That's why you ask. We're joined by two incredible humans, CEO and COO, co-founders of this incredible organization called Wonsulting. That's Wonsulting. Jonathan, Jerry, introduce yourselves. Say hello to our fans, our audience.
Welcome, friends.
Thank you so much for having us. We're excited.
I love this. Please, no more.
No more.
The crowd speaks. They're on their feet.
I swear to
God. So we are here today to learn a little bit more about you guys and what makes you tick, demystifying, deconstructing a little bit of your process, and understanding how you got to where you are today. So maybe why don't we start? We always like to start from the beginning, right? What better place to start? So how did you get here? Talk to us about your origin stories.
Wow. Let's take us back to 3 years ago when Jerry and I joined forces together. I think it was about 3 years ago, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, how we started Wonsulting was in 2019. It honestly was just an idea. Like most people out there, or a lot of people, they'll create these side hustles or side jobs where they just have a passion for helping others. And for us, that was helping individuals who came from these underprivileged backgrounds land dream offers. And when we started it at first, we were just doing everything for free. We were going to different universities across the Bay Area and in the SoCal region, just offering to help people with their resumes, with their LinkedIn profiles, with networking, because it was strategies like those that we utilized ourselves to get into our respective companies, Snap, Google, Cisco, Lucid. And one day someone was like, hey, like, can you come do a workshop for us and we'll pay you for it? And we're like, what? You can get paid for this? So it all stemmed from that. And to this day, we've expanded so much to not just doing workshops, but also providing services, helping individuals one-on-one land their dream jobs. We partner with so many different companies, including LinkedIn, Handshake, so many different things that we're working on at Wonsulting. And now we've grown to several full-time employees and now a team of overall almost 30 individuals. Wow. So it's all stemmed from joining forces together when we were at Google, and now we're here where we are today.
Can you actually give a little bit of a background before you guys decide to start this? My understanding is you guys went through quite a few different companies and rose in the ranks. Youngest, what was it, an analyst at Google? Yep. You guys worked at Deloitte. Like, just talk even before that, so we know like what you're bringing to the table and how that came about.
Yeah. So I can go ahead and get started. So before Wonsulting existed, so for me, I come from a first generation low income household. And so for me, I wear that very proudly as a badge because I feel like that has instilled the virtues of hard work, persistence, never giving up into me that I sort of apply throughout my entire career. And so come college, I had never heard of what an internship was. I didn't even know how to tie a tie. I literally had my dad tie a tie for
Clip
me.
on.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even have clip-ons. All he had
Clip
was
on
he
crew.
tied it, so I could just move it up and down, you know. And so I remember my roommate was the one who saw me pull out a pre-tied tie, and he undid it. And he was like, "What are you doing, Jerry?" And I was like, "Oh my God, how dare you!" But it was at that moment where I began to realize that, hey, I have so much more to learn about what it means to be a professional, but and also talking about the whole job process. So you sort of fast forward through the first couple of years of my college, I began to realize that, hey, applying to 300 jobs a semester for me to get an internship every single semester wasn't the best utilization of my time. And so that's where I started learning about the concept of networking and going beyond the application process, which later began to be the foundation of what we do with Wonsulting. Later, I became the first intern at Google from my alma mater, and my school's been around for over 100 years. Shortly after, was hired as the youngest analyst into the organization that I was at, and broke a couple promotion records while I was over there. Hit a wall, left Google, joined another company called Lucid, and then Wonsulting full time. So that's a little bit about my journey, my professional story, and how I then went into Wonsulting full time with John.
Yeah. And for me, or Amer, oh,
No, please keep going.
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say, and yeah, circling back to +1 to Jerry, like just helping individuals and also coming from that background where for me, I was trying to go for a lot of these big name companies, but I attended a school that didn't have companies directly recruit from my school, which is basically a non-target school. So when I was simply applying to a lot of the roles I was going for, I was getting rejected for them, and I thought to myself, why is this the case? But by actually networking and creating human connections with individuals who have guided me throughout my own journey, whether it's providing insights, whether it's getting referred, whether it's getting recommended to someone who's on the actual hiring team, was able to land at Snapchat, Google, and Cisco. But before all that, had no connections whatsoever. It was just all from utilizing LinkedIn and other social media platforms to meet individuals and putting yourself out there. For us, we create a lot of content where we're able to not only meet so many different individuals, but gain a lot of opportunities. And that's what's really created what Wonsulting is today.
Well, so I was going to ask, what is it that you guys thought that you wanted to do as a career? Is it just like we wanted to get into tech, or we wanted to get into, where were your heads at?
Yeah. I feel like the journey to a career, a lot of people have a dream career in quotations when they start. And when they're able to attain that dream career, for me, it was getting into tech, right? Getting into a Google, getting into a big corporate company, which a lot of people aspire to get into. But you soon realize that working in these respective companies, you are a small fish in a big pond, but also your dream company might change. And that for me, and Jerry can probably attest to it for his own too, sometimes your dream company is your own company. And when you're able to do that and help other people land their dream opportunities, that to me is something special.
I'm curious, was there a magic moment, a eureka revelation or catalyst that said, I I need to start my own thing, right? That dream company is no longer what I want, and now I want to do the entrepreneurship thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy because I remember when John, I first, so it's crazy about how as you're asking that question, the memory that came back to me was when I first found out who John was. And John was at the time in LA, and he was just doing workshops at local universities and colleges, just because he loved to do it. And so I remember I came across one of his LinkedIn posts. He and I connected, and we said, hey, listen, whenever you come up to the Bay, let's do something together. And he said, okay, cool. He eventually came up to the Bay to work at Google. And then I remember we were doing a number of these workshops, and the first one was at UC Berkeley. Once we did that, we posted about it on LinkedIn. Then 3 more schools reached out. Then we went to school number 1 or school number 2, did the whole workshop, posted about it. 3 more schools reached out. Then we went on to the 3rd one, and we sort of had this really weird networking tree of us just getting invited to do these opportunities. And John and myself, we genuinely just loved the idea and sort of that like aha moment in people's faces when we would do these workshops. But it wasn't until the moment when someone started asking us, well, hey, John and Jerry, do you guys do resumes? We're like, yeah, for sure we do. And they're like, how much? And we're like, what? Wait, what do you, okay, $20, right? Cover our lunch, right? And I think that's where we began to realize, hey, maybe there is a need for things like this. And that's really how things got started.
So y'all each had your jobs, your full-time jobs, while also just starting to run these little workshops about blank. What were actually the workshops?
So primarily, this one was the main one that we did was around LinkedIn and networking. Okay. So at the time when we first started doing this was around 2018-ish. So posting content on LinkedIn, building our LinkedIn profile, networking on LinkedIn wasn't the norm at the time. And so we were sort of the ones to say, hey, listen, there's so many things that you could be doing. Take advantage of this. And so that's where people were like, oh my gosh, wait, what do you mean I can network with people on LinkedIn? And I'm sure John can talk a lot more about it too.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about how, like Jerry mentioned, not a lot of people know how to utilize LinkedIn or just to network in general. The traditional process is you simply apply to a role and you wait for a response, when it takes a while, right? A lot of interview processes take a lot of time, right? So what we try to teach all the time at Wonsulting is a different way, a untraditional way or a non-traditional way of how to land a job, which we've utilized ourselves and so many of our clients have used to get into their respective companies.
I want to hone in a little bit more into this transition into full-time, because I think there's a lot of people that are listening that are entrepreneurs. I know I've come from the entrepreneur space, Amer as well. Also first generation crew right here in the house, all around.
Let's go.
But I think as you grow, and it's amazing because the stats that I've seen and that you guys are talking about, having 30 employee, having, upwards of 30 people, followers, 500,000 on like nearly every platform. There's a lot of validation, but that has to start somewhere. And I'm curious, when did this become real for the two of you, the gravity and seriousness of starting a business together, where that conversation about your work dynamic and who is going to do what, CEO, COO, this is where your roles begin and end, workday, because inevitably every business is going to have to come to that space, right? We're going to have to choose and you're going to have to grow. And that's a real conversation. How did that unfold?
Yeah, so maybe John, you can talk about because John was the first person who thought about Wonsulting as a business, sort of created the structure of it. So maybe John, you can talk about that, and also you can talk about how you went full-time, because he went full-time 6 months before I did, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It all stemmed from Jerry and I really aligning regarding our own values of helping people. And I remember actually it all stemmed from, I remember one day I went up to, I was in the Bay Area already, but Jerry lived in San Francisco and I believe I was in Sunnyvale or San Jose. And I remember driving up to Jerry's house and I was like, dang, Jerry, you should join Wonsulting part-time, right? At first. And he was like, all right, sure. Like, let's focus on doing this, right? And sorry, everybody, give me 1 second. There's like someone tapping like outside. Okay. Anyways.
They just want to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, they have a question. Yeah,
literally, I was talking.
They're doing a podcast.
I was like,
yeah. Where's
Are
the
you
link?
guys
Send
taking
us a link.
audience call-ins or what's happening?
I literally was trying to keep my cool. I was like, oh my god, are they seriously just
Yeah.
like tapping? I'm like, okay, it stopped.
It was
I
great
stopped.
We'll
to
send
see
you the
you sort of
recording
like,
later. It's fine.
Yeah, I was like, is it gonna stop? I like literally looked at the person. Oh, it's still going. Whatever. Sorry, reset. We'll reset that card. I know that'll be cut off. But yeah, it all stemmed from, when Jerry and I joined forces, or joined together, we had very similar values. We really wanted to just help people, and so what happened was, I was working at Cisco, and COVID-19 happened. And what happened was my job actually got affected by COVID-19 layoffs. So went full time with it, and it was only about four of us, if I'm correct. And it was me, Jerry, and then we had two of our other associates. And we were thinking to ourselves, okay, like, we're getting really big on LinkedIn, which is our platform that we were most known as. And then we told ourselves, okay, like, should we get on other platforms? And so we got on TikTok, we got on Instagram, and we saw a huge amount of conversions coming from those platforms because we decided to start creating content on there. Jerry also went full time. And the thing was, at first, to be transparent, I was more of the content creator, and Jerry was more of the business minded COO. And why I say this is because I was just so focused on marketing, right? And Jerry was looking at the overall business structure. But soon after, Jerry really inspired me, and I give credit to my girlfriend too for inspiring me to look at it as, like, are you a content creator or are you focusing on a business as CEO? So when we were able to focus directly on what impacts the business and what helps it grow, we were able to hire, like, we're hiring right now as full-time sales coordinator. It's crazy to think about because I would never imagine hiring someone full-time for my own company or for our own company. So it's all kind of stemmed from just aligning with our values and just putting it all out there, because what we say all the time is, if it fails, let's just go back to corporate, and if it fails, let's try something else.
Yeah, was it's amazing to hear that there's a little bit of that reflection process that you had about your roles and responsibilities and kind of what naturally you gravitated towards. Jerry, did you feel, like, hey, your recognition of where I sit and what my roles and responsibilities did you recognize and say, that is my strong suit, I want to be there? Or was there, where this is coming from? So when I was working on the National Consumer Packaged Goods startup, I Enlightened, with my buddy, there was actually a moment when he had an office on Fifth Avenue, sat me down and like painted the vision, like it was Lion King Simba style, of like, this could all be yours, right? And like saying, like, this is the vision and I want you as my partner for this. And we talked about roles and responsibilities, but that was when there was a real negotiation of like, what do you want to do? What does this mean? Where do you see yourself? And seeing if those aligned. And I'm curious because it is really hard to find that co-founder, especially given that you guys, I had 5-10 years of friendship behind us, and you guys met through LinkedIn.
That's right.
Was there a total alignment of like, cool, you're gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, great, thanks so much, shake our hands, and 50-50? Or
Yeah, I think so to answer your question shortly, I don't think we ever had like, all right, this is gonna be what you're gonna do, just what you're gonna do is perfect alignment. I think it very much happened organically. And as sort of John mentioned, one of the key principles that, looking back, that we realized is that what we did at the time was a commodity. Reviewing people's resumes, reviewing people's interview prep, all that stuff. Anyone else can do it. So what differentiated us, I feel like, was the marketing piece. So I feel like the fact that John, whether or not he realized it or not, I don't think either of us realized it. It was that marketing to help set the foundation for us to do everything that we can today. And so for me, when I was coming on full time, and the line of work that I was doing business strategy work for Google, for a business multi-billion-dollar business unit at Google that was growing at double digits year over year. And so all the work that I was doing was foundational work stuff, project management, working across marketing, sales, product, executives, and stakeholder management. And so I sort of got an insider's look at how companies run businesses. And so when I sort of saw Wonsulting grow, I very much just, it was very natural for me to sort of take on that like the business owner type mindset. Whereas John, I feel like his real strong suit is being able to communicate, storytell, connecting and building communities. And so initially, I think we were really lucky in a sense that we didn't have an overlapping set of skills. Rather, they were extremely complementary and extremely necessary for the type of business that we were doing at the time. But the crazy thing is I don't ever recall me and John sitting down and being like, all right, perfect. Here are my 6 core set of skills. Here's your 6, perfect alignment. I'm going to take these 4, you take these 3. It very much happened very naturally. And I think the biggest thing that I attribute to like how we worked so amicably together is definitely not my working style, because I definitely can be hard-headed, but I think John is probably one of the most, I guess, most humble, but also the least ego, someone to bring them like the least amount of ego into any business type of conversation. And I think it's extremely important when you're trying to find a co-founder that you remove all the emotion, remove all the ego, and say, beyond job titles, beyond whatever, what is the right thing to do for the business? And I think that's one thing that John has continually taught me. And I feel like John leading through example has brought us to where we are today.
That's beautiful, guys. That's really, really great. Like, let's just, let's acknowledge that for a moment, that you noticed a natural organic synergy that was based on your values, and you guys met. You were coming from similar backgrounds, met on a medium, LinkedIn, that is a place that you both find to be like your natural territory, if you will. Like, you're both just there anyway, right? And then you kind of connected there. It was a really cool, like out here in the jungle, like, oh, cool. Like, hey, you seem cool. Yeah, you seem cool too. We're doing this. Cool. And then it just kind of picks up, and then you let it sort of start developing into something that now lives beyond just you two. And those, that scale and that growth can come with some growing pains. And it sounds like y'all have navigated it really well. Is that something that, and also because to share what Neal was saying, like, we both come from entrepreneurial backgrounds, or at least in that mode now. And I'm learning a lot of these lessons that you're talking about now in real time. So it's actually really refreshing to hear you talk about this. And is that now something that, have you seen that almost like growth strategy, organizational structure, something that you're offering? Is that something that you've seen other people like, hey, cool, how do I help scale and build my org chart?
Yeah. And is the question more around it, do we help enable others do that? Is that the question?
Yes.
Or?
Yeah. Like, because your services have expanded to so many different things now.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's a really interesting question, because one of the biggest questions that we get from our mentors have been, hey, you guys are currently focusing on the job search, right? And you guys have done extremely well, but what about post that? What about people who want to create their startups? What about people who want to stay in corporate, do well in their companies? Like, have you guys thought about that? And so I think that because we feel like our jobs we have not been able to accomplish our jobs in the job search space today. Like today, if I ask someone on who went to the University of North Dakota, and I ask them, hey, how confident do you feel that you'll have an equal shot at getting an internship at Goldman Sachs for investment banking? I don't know if the answer is going to be, I feel extremely confident. And because we don't feel like people who come from non-traditional backgrounds do not have an equal footing today, that's why we're like, you know what, as much as we have the urge to say, let's go beyond the job search, we want to first accomplish the job search, make it an equal and equitable process such that you don't need institutional knowledge for you to get a job. Once we accomplish that, man, the whole world is, I mean, that's the whole world's our oyster. Like, we definitely thinking about the next problems we want to tackle, but we're starting with step 0 first.
Nice. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I feel like one thing that we struggled with before is we were trying to do too many things at once, meaning we were doing, like, we had this program called the 20, and it was a program where we helped 20 job seekers land jobs. We had workshops, right? Workshops that Jerry and I had to attend for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it was, to give a workshop on networking and LinkedIn. But both of those now we don't really do anymore. And the reason being is because the main focus has been that equitable part, where how do we get people their first jobs, or how do we get people their dream jobs? And if we're able to crush it in that aspect, we hope that later on, when we're able to crush it there, we can work on other things that'll make an impact on other individuals. Yeah, it'll have like that domino effect.
Nice.
I'm curious as you're talking, and it sounds like there's some things that you tried that you wish that you could have done, that you could continue, but bandwidth, capacity is changing your direction. And I think something that we often find, or we found, everything from movies to books to people's experiences, is that there's often a core heartbreak or something that you wish, that happened, you wish would be different. And I'm curious, starting Wonsulting, if there was, post and pre, if there was something that's really informed where you are today, that personal or professional heartbreak that just took you to this space now.
Yeah, I mean, I can get started first. I mean, I think for me is definitely freshman year of college, where I remember I was at the dorms, and there were two other students in the hall, and one of whom ran out of her room screaming, "Oh my God, I got an internship!" And everyone else came. I was like, "Oh my God, congratulations!" And I literally sat there being like, "What's an internship?" And she was saying, "Yeah, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be at Goldman Sachs in investment banking in Hong Kong." And people were like, "Oh my God, congrats." And I was like, "What is investment banking? What is Goldman?" I had no idea what that was. Only later to realize that, like, that person had only had gotten that role in part because their family had extremely tight connections with a lot of the global managing directors, and specifically the ones that sat in Hong Kong. So it was very easy for them to sort of grant those opportunities. And I think we still see this today. So to me, that's where something clicked in my mind, where to me, I could have thought the situation in one of two ways. I could have thought to myself and said, "Wow, that really sucks that I don't have anyone in my network who can vouch for me like that." Or the other way I could have thought was, listen, if that person can do it because I knew someone, so can I. And so thankfully, I think because of sort of the values that I grew up with, I very much lean towards the latter. And that's what got me so into wanting to understand HR processes, interviewing recruiters, interviewing hiring managers, understanding recruiting team processes, and so on and so forth. All that to me has made me realize, oh my God, there is a really big institutional knowledge gap that needs to be fixed here. And so to me, that was where I began to realize, man, like, I definitely need to do something in this space. I don't know what it's going to be. Initially, once I graduated, I thought to myself, well, my outlet to helping fix this problem is going to be to create content on LinkedIn. So that to me was that initial start, that initial realization that made me realize, man, this is something we definitely need to fix, because had I not had the mentors, had I not had the community, I would be in a very different place today.
Yeah. I mean, same for me too. I feel like there's a lot of privileges that a lot of people have, especially when working at these respective companies, because maybe their aunt already works at a McKinsey, or their uncle already works at a Meta. And for me, like, yeah, I didn't know anything about careers until I was only a senior in college. And I remember I was saying to myself, okay, like, let's get into the big four, which is the accounting companies, because I thought that would be the only way to get into tech, because that's what everybody said. And everyone was like, oh, it's impossible to get into these respective big name tech companies because we don't go to a school where the opportunities come here. But I realized that it is possible, because a lot of people just self-reject themselves before going for the roles. They'll say to themselves, okay, like, I don't see anybody in a leadership role that looks like me. Or they'll say, oh yeah, I've already applied to it, I got rejected, so I'm going to stop trying. What shifted was the mindset of figuring out how do you get into these respective companies by actually making human connections? I think that people are always set on, okay, let's go optimize my resume for ATS. Let me go beat the robots, whatever it is, right? I see Amer and Neal being like, yeah, right? The thing is, though, humans still read resumes. For us, we're hiring managers. We read the resumes that are submitted to us. Optimize your resume for a human, not a system, and you'll realize how you'll be able to make not only connections but go through interview processes to land offers. And that's how I actually landed my first offer at Snapchat.
So I'm hearing there was a personal experience that really informed kind of the realization, which ultimately ended up becoming Wonsulting. And I think this is very connected to sort of your catchphrase, or the thing that really embodies and identifies what Wonsulting is, which is turning underdogs into winners. And I'm curious if post starting Wonsulting, there's a feeling, there's another heartbreak that makes you, or an experience that makes you still feel like the underdog, and how are you resolving it?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think historically, when you think about the whole career consulting space, you don't think of two Asian dudes who are 27 years old and who create content on and have a social media presence. I don't think that's the first thing that comes to mind for most people. I think when you think about career coaches, career development folks, you think of people who've been in the space for 20, 15 years, probably in their mid late 40s, and they charge $2,000 an hour for career consulting. And so for us, I think in a lot of ways, we were sort of the pioneers in defining, hey, listen, just because we don't have the age or we don't look like a certain way, that doesn't mean that we don't have an opportunity to add value. That doesn't mean that we aren't the right people to be solving these problems. We are the right people to be solving these problems because we personally have felt and continue to see the problems happening on the ground every single day, because that is exactly what drives us to create content every single day. And so as I sort of think about, well, hey, listen, as my underdog story and having to realize, hey, listen, I want to do something in the world one day where I can do this, to even today where, listen, we aren't 45-year-old middle-aged white Caucasian males who charge $2,000 an hour, but I still do
What?
do crazy, right? I had no idea. Surprise. But I do feel like as a result of that, we're doing our work to continue to break down that stigma of what career coaching is, what seeking out career help means, and making sure that people are educated enough, whether it's through our paid or free content, that you have to be aware of of how to write a resume, of how to interview, or how to network. Otherwise, you're gonna be left behind in the job market today. And so, in short, I think it really is just continuing to fight the stigma of what career coaching is, what it means to the users, but also just making sure people are aware of how important it is for you to be proactive in your career.
Hmm. Do you, since you've got so many wins in creating this, do you guys identify as underdogs
Of course.
individually or in the company, or
Yes,
have you
definitely.
won already?
I, yeah, I
One
mean,
consulting.
consulting, get it, right? Winning plus consulting, right? Yeah, I mean, I feel like we are still underdogs because, of course, we have so much to learn. It seems like we've been here and we've had such a long time running consulting when it's only been 2 to 3 years, which is crazy to think about. And I feel like we have so much more of we have so much potential, even more potential than we have, right? I think that anyone can identify as an underdog, whether you go to a target school, right? Maybe you are a specific minority at that target school. You can still be an underdog. Maybe you've been rejected for roles, or maybe you're trying to get into a specific VC like Y Combinator and you get rejected. You can still consider yourself as an underdog. I feel like that underdog mentality and adapting that mentality is important because that'll inspire and motivate you even more to continuously keep hitting your goals. It's like in the March Madness, when March Madness was going on, nobody wanted Kansas to win. I hope nobody listening and want Kansas to win, but everybody wanted St. Peter's to win because they're the underdog. So by considering ourselves the underdogs, I feel like we keep on aspiring to help other underdogs too, and it builds a community of individuals who want very similar goals and have similar values.
Yeah. Truth. I'm I'm curious to also learn, like, now that this is running, like, can you talk to us, just bring us down to earth, like what your days are? What are your days like? What are, when you get up, how do you start your day? How do you keep it flowing, keep it moving? Yeah, talk to us a little bit about what your average day looks like.
Yeah, it's an interesting day for sure. So Mondays, and what we'll usually do is we actually have a meditation weekly. So in the morning, we usually do a meditation with one of our team members, who he's our web developer, but he also runs a Facebook group with 400,000 people, I believe. Jerry can correct me if I'm wrong. But we do meditation in the morning. Then we'll have a ton of meetings, specifically with leaders on our team. And we also have been doing a lot of one-on-ones with each of our individual team members, just to make sure, number one, our priorities are aligned, but also just talking about their own personal goals and aspirations. Tuesdays and Thursdays are more lax for us. We try not to have as many meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The reason being is because those days are mostly heads down work, and Jerry and I will sometimes meet if something occurs sporadically. But Tuesdays and Thursdays are more of the chiller days. But I feel like what's really good about our work schedules is that Jerry and I hold each other very accountable to what we're doing, but also we remind ourselves to take breaks. So, for example, I'm actually going to the Philippines from May 12th to June 4th. And in my head, I was like, dang, like maybe I should check in on the team and see if everything is okay, like throughout the weeks. But Jerry was like, no, just take a break. Take a break. Don't look at your laptop. And I was like, okay, fine. Right. But I feel confident that Jerry will be able to lead the team even more. And Jerry's been able to instill that confidence in me to say, hey, like, if one of us takes a break, it's okay. We'll still be running the ship even further along. So, yeah, a lot of our day to day, I mean, I love work. Work's fun. I mean, Jerry and I, all the time, we're always thinking about different content too. There's never just an ordinary day at Wonsulting, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would plus one to that. So Tuesday, Thursdays for sure. We try to keep it no meetings. Oh, unless we have cool opportunities like this to be on cool podcasts. Hey,
I was waiting
we
for you
make
to say
exceptions.
that.
Yeah,
We
right.
make exceptions.
Yeah, I was about to say,
I was
thank
like,
you guys for
Tuesday.
thanks for chiming in
You're like,
today. Thank you.
what day is it today? um, but Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, as John mentioned, are typically filled with meetings, working sessions, or content shooting days. So what that really consists of are meetings with external partners, internal teams, project updates, working sessions, etc. So a lot of meetings. Second thing is work time. So these are where we're pushing internal projects, or we're trying to launch something new, or we're trying to prep for something, and our team needs feedback. That's really what the second line of work is. And of course, content creation. As you guys may know, John and I create content every single day on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. And so as a result of that, we have to dedicate some amount of time to that, because not only do we feel like there's business value there, but most importantly, there's a lot of societal and community value that we bring as a result of us being consistent with content creation. And so typically that's what our days look like. In terms of hours, it really can vary. Like sometimes I am not a morning person, so I love to wake up around like 9:30, but I prefer to go until 6, 7, 8 p.m. Because I'd rather be a little bit more into the evening than late in the morning. But yeah, that's pretty much an average week, I think.
Jerry, there's a lot of things that I think overlap between us. that I'll get into a little bit later. Well, one, I'm going to be excited to talk to you about vision boarding shortly later into
Oh
this.
my God, John loves that. Oh my God.
Oh, it's John that loves it. It's John that loves the vision boarding.
Yeah,
Yo,
love
listen.
it.
All right, okay, John, we're gonna listen.
Mm.
Yeah,
And
we're
Jerry, I
gonna.
also heard that you don't drink coffee. Right here.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, never had a cup. Never
No
had a cup.
coffee, no tea,
we both.
nothing.
We both.
Yeah, we don't like caffeine.
Damn straight.
The and I like this nod of John. Go ahead and take your time, like take a break, and you have that sense of safety that you can do that. I mean, like, are you actually excited? Like, are you actually not going to be able to check your phone for like? Do you feel okay about going away for a couple weeks and not looking at? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. I definitely feel confident, and it just stems from Jerry's leadership and also like our trust in each other. I feel like
Right.
like for a company to be successful, you should, as co-founders, you should trust in one another to deliver results and also be an asset to the team, of course. Um, but yeah, I trust in Jerry that he's gonna like. It's crazy to think about because every like last month, for example, or 2 months ago, Jerry actually went on vacation for about maybe like 2-3 weeks, and we saw a growth of like 10%. Right, and I remember Jerry was like, "Oh my gosh, like should I ever come back?" I'm
Jerry's
like,
not here. We do
Hey,
better.
I gotta leave.
but then check
Sorry,
it out.
guys.
But then the next month we grew even like 15% more. And then this month, I think we're gonna grow like 20%. So maybe it's gonna be switched, Jerry. Maybe I won't come back after this vacation.
Perfect.
But like I said before, like it's all about having that trust with each other. And if you have that trust, that's gonna be super important, whether it's through a business or relationship wise or friendship wise.
Well, so yeah, this is hold on. So I'm going somewhere with this. I'm going somewhere because I'm very curious about this too. And speaking just from personal experience, where I've been in New York for about 10 years, just over 8, and moving here, I knew that I wanted to do something about climate change. That's why I moved here from New Mexico, which is where I'm from. And eventually, I started thinking about. And eventually on our site, when we have it up, all that, you'll see a little bit of our bios. I'm all about future thinking and the future of environmentalism and what does that look like. So I came up with this hashtag randomly called Future Meets Present. So now everything about solutions to climate change, I share with that hashtag. Like, this is what it looks like when the future meets present. All that sort of, just as a hashtag, right? And so over time, that hashtag has developed into a company. Something that was a personal passion and a worldview started forming into service offerings and a product and events, all under that same theme and umbrella. And now there's people showing up that are like, I feel the same way. Our values are aligned. I happen to be really good at this. I know you hate doing that. Let me kind of step. And so now I'm in this place where my brain is like a sponge and I'm so thirsty for organizational structure. I'm very emergent. I was a DJ in a past life, still kind of am. And I'm just like, I also am not super morning person. I like to just wake up and just like see where my energy takes me. And that's sort of the thing. Now I'm like, cool. So, and I ask you that, John, if like you feel good about leaving, taking this time off because there's this structure in place. And I'm just like, I wonder if you guys could let us in a little bit on, do you guys work with, and for those listening that might be in the same boat that are looking like, how do I scale this concept to a team, to a larger team, to a board of advisors? Like, do you guys work with the objectives and key results framework? Do you set your, how do you organize your work in a way that gives you that safety, that psychological safety to step away and be like, cool, it's all here. We're Gucci. How do you get Gucci is my question.
Yeah, that makes sense. Similar to how you think, we very much structure our business around teams, and we base those teams around our key. So taking a step back, so we sort of define our like what we want to accomplish for the year. And John and I sort of have a rough outline of what we want to accomplish this year. We then break it down by how we think we're going to be able to achieve this, from sales numbers, marketing numbers, ops numbers and everything else in between. And we sort of have goals by month of what we hope to achieve for us to be able to achieve our broader mission of the goals that we had set. And as a result, we then design teams around to help achieve those goals. And so we very much take a very structured approach where we have a sort of a key vision of what we want to accomplish. We break those down into numbers. We then think about what projects need to be done to get to said numbers, and then we'll organize teams around that. So that's sort of the sort of top-down view that we sort of look at. Day to day, though, I think it very much feels like we're more closer to the ground because we focus primarily around, all right, hey, listen, this last week we feel like numbers aren't growing as much as we'd like to on this area. Well, let's double click into that and figure out what we can do, and so on and so forth. So that's generally the way that we structure our business, how we think about priorities, and how we think about hiring.
I'm flipping it around a little bit. You've got so much structure here, and I heard from you guys are working till 7, 8. You're like creating this. Is there room for real life? What are the vegetable moments that do you have vegetable moments? Are you just not vegetables at all? You know, like,
and by vegetable moments, you're just like, oh my god, what the hell
you
do
know,
we do?
it's definitely something.
Like moments that you chill, like moments that you're just like
that is essentially humanizing you. That we're not machines. I think we live in this world, in New York specifically, that and generationally, that it's go go go. The more work, the more you produce, the better you are. And if we're not working, we need to appear like we're working. And I've seen it when I've lived in New York. I've seen it when living in South Korea. I've seen it in quite a few capacities. And I'm curious, A, do you have those moments? B, how do you spend those moments if you do? And C, how do you protect the vegetableness, like the life outside of this work that can seem very validating and can be the sole definition of you?
Yeah, and it's actually really timely that you bring this up because John and I were actually talking about this exact topic about because I think for us, our roles are a little bit funny because we have this, John sort of alluded to earlier, we have to be business executives, but we also have to be content creators. And both those are full-time jobs. And if you treat one of them like a part-time job, well, you're going to get part-time job results. And so one of the things that John and I recently talked about was saying, hey, listen, like, what are we? Are we more executives? Are we more content creators? And if so, what's a balance between that? And are we okay with those results if that means that one side might slip? So for example, if we think of ourselves as more as executives, then are we okay dedicating more time to building the business, less so on content creation, knowing that our content might slip in terms of growth? And so for us, I think that's probably the biggest thing we struggle with, understanding that balance between the two, because I think for such a long time, and if I'm right, I think, John, we've been creating content every single day on the 3 platforms for 2 years now, almost.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about.
2 years. And so we know what it takes to create content every single day on 3 platforms, but then from a work perspective, that this is only getting bigger, right? Where we scale from a team of sort of 2 full-time, 20 part-time at the beginning of the year. Now we're 10 full-time, 25 part-time 4 months later. The amount of work is only gonna climb. And so that balance for us, I think, is where we often have the biggest time feeling like, man, we don't know what to do. So in terms of how often do we get a chance to be vegetables, I think it is during these times when we go on vacation, when we're able to say, hey, listen, let's either take one of these days to just chill and just not do much, deprioritize some things, but that's how we think about it.
This is making me think. I remember seeing, I think when Colbert switched from the Colbert Show to late night, he talked about how there was fundamentally a different Stephen Colbert that you're going to be meeting. That the Colbert on the Colbert Show was very much a parody. The one that was with Jon Stewart, was a different kind of character that engaged with everyone. And I'm curious, for is the John and Jerry that we are seeing on, because you're playing a few different roles, right? Executives, influencers. There's also friends. You also have families and relationships. Is the John and Jerry that we're seeing the same John and Jerry that's at home and in all these other places across the board?
Definitely, yeah. I would say one of the most important parts is just to be authentic on all different platforms. And that's why, like, my philosophy has always been, and a lot of people can have different opinions, is like the work that you do will ultimately affect how your personal life is too. Like that's why I always tell people, like, go into a job that makes you happy, right? Maybe it'll pay you a little less, but if it pays you more, that's even better. But I feel like when you're in a job where you are genuinely happy with also people that make you happy or that uplift you, I feel like that mentally wise and also just you as a person will keep you going. And I think that when I was in corporate, actually, I felt like I wasn't really myself because what would happen is like when I worked at Google, I would always outside of work, whether it was at social gatherings, whether it was at friends' houses, they'd only ask me questions about Google. Oh, hey, how's Google? And it's literally the only thing I would talk about. But nowadays, it's not just about corporate life. Some of it's Wonsulting, but some of it's like, how's your personal life? How's Wonsulting going? How's your family? How are your friends? So I feel like that identity side has made me more authentic, whether it's on social media or just when meeting friends and family.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the key to what one of the biggest tips that you'll see on social media growth is be authentic. And I think initially when you're first starting out to create content, it's very hard to be authentic. But once you get comfortable in front of a camera, it's very easy to be. It becomes easier. But I agree that I think when I was in corporate, I felt more like, "Hey, how you doing, George? How are the kids? Oh my God, great!" Like it felt like I had to put this professional mask. But now that John and I get to sort of dictate how we want, how the culture of the culture of the company that we built, one of the things that we keep in mind absolutely is, hey, bring your whole self to work. So one of the things that John and I do is, as much when it's business time, let's definitely be business time. But when it's not, like, don't take it too seriously, right? Like, we'll joke around with our employees, we'll practice, like we'll pull little pranks here and there. We'll call out people's wins. We'll help celebrate people's personal and professional milestones. Because at the end of the day, like, one of our philosophies, especially running Wonsulting, has always been, if we're going to spend so much time together at work, then we might as well work with people that we like, right? And so that's, we really try to use that as sort of our guiding principle in developing a culture that we all feel inclusive and feel like we're all being heard and seen.
And did you guys notice were there any inflection points on this process where, because I do appreciate that. I also want to just like take a momentary pause to just like honestly like thank you guys for everything that you're saying right now, because I mean, if I could speak for me and Neal both, like it's very much, I feel like I'm an audience member right now at the moment, just like genuinely listening. And I'm like, oh, cool. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm very much receiving everything that y'all are sharing. So it's a momentary thank you for that. And I'm sure there were moments along the way where you're like, damn, I don't feel myself right now. Like maybe like this is overwhelming, or like this is like maybe like this is growing too much and it's getting a little scary or something. Were there any moments like that where you're just like, dang, like I think I'm losing myself for a moment and I need to just like get like climb back up?
Yeah, I would say recently, actually. One thing that I feel like happens a lot to people, and I actually always say this on social media, but I've felt it myself, is comparison is the thief of joy, right?
Oh,
So, yeah, one of my favorite quotes.
yes.
And so last year, like, our, like, my TikTok and Instagram is doing really well. And this year, it's just been like very stagnant. It's like plateaued. And I remember just feeling to myself, dang, like, do I enjoy making content? And I was reflecting on it actually this past weekend with Jared. I was like, do I even like making content anymore? Like, I have this philosophy of, am I like saying, do I have to do it or do I get to do it? So what I realized is that when I was creating social media, like throughout the past couple of months, I wasn't as excited, right? I was like, dang, like I'm doing the same thing over and over again. And what I realize now is like, I want to do something with content that makes me happy, right? I always try to say, okay, like make it with the audience is happy, or give them some tips, or optimize to get the most views. When in fact, when you're creating content and you want to be authentic, you want to do what makes you happy, and people will follow that and be like, oh, I'm happy seeing this content too. So throughout the past week, I've shifted a lot of the content, and I've been seeing a lot more engagement than before because I was doing the same tips. This is how you get a job. This is how you network to land a job. I try to incorporate more funny things, such as like someone said in a video, for example, was like, what's your job? He said, I'm a CPA in Big Four. And then I was like, why would you want to do that? I was just making fun of it. I was just joking about it. And then in the comments, like 100 people commented. They're like just laughing, which was like really funny. I had fun making that actual video, So, and Jerry's someone who actually inspired me to sort of change that mindset, because he was like, John, you don't look as happy or excited to make content. And I said to myself, you're right. So that shift has made me more authentic, I feel, in the past couple of weeks compared to before.
Are there systems that you guys have in place that help foster and nurture those kinds of realizations that, outside of just, well, I just feel this way and I'm going to respond to that feeling, but more that opportunities for reflection, both between yourselves and with staff members and the company as a whole?
Yeah, I would say that Jerry and I do have weekly stand-ups. But recently, Jerry and I were in like an executive coaching session with one of Jerry's mentors, who's super thankful to have. Shout out to Raf if you're listening in. But that session made me realize like that what are my own priorities, or where is my mindset? Is it in the correct place or not? So I feel like those sessions and just having one-on-one sessions with Jerry every week we always come up with the realizations of what we're feeling, and we're very transparent about it with each other, which has allowed us to grow as individuals.
Yeah. And I think we, with at least between me and John, I think we're going to start using an executive coach to help foster these important conversations, which has been super cool to try out this past weekend. At least with our team, one of the things that we try to do on a quarterly basis or whatever is we try to bring in external consultants, sort of host workshops. So most recently, we had a sort of leadership offsite where we had one of my buddies who was an innovation consultant for about 4 or 5 years, worked with Fortune 100 company management teams to help foster these type of discussions. And at least with our leadership team, that's how we sort of try to have these open conversations. In addition, one thing that we do every once in a while, maybe once every quarter, twice a year, is that John and I will say, hey, listen, to everyone on the team, listen, we want to share feedback. But most importantly, we want to hear your feedback on the company. So I remember last year we did an anonymous survey. We crunched the numbers, shared the results with everybody to sort of give people the opportunity to say things that they may not feel as comfortable sharing directly to us. And so I think at those 3 levels, between me and John, at the executive level and our team level, that's how we try to foster those types of conversations.
Something else that I'm curious in terms of a lot of the decision-making process is, so Amer mentioned that he was in this world of sustainability. I'm very much in the world of the arts and community building, and I think what I see is a lot, at least connected to your work, is this traditional idea of what a dream job is. You're right. It's challenging. It's disrupting that idea. What I see on your website is a lot of, what companies we've reached that maybe hit and are connected to those traditional ideas of that, whether it's Delaware or Google or Tesla or this, whatever it might be. Is there is there an intention to be expanding, or is there, how do you work with folks that are coming in with a different idea of what their dream job is and saying, I want to start my own company, I want to I want to work in the world of sustainability and climate change. And I want to build something like what Wonsulting is. And really, because I think what Amer and I saw when exploring was really a filter that's about engineering, that's about web development, some more tech centered. And I'm just curious what kind of additional expansion or you guys see in the future, and how that's maybe connected to some of your own personal goals, especially within entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I definitely feel like that is probably one of our biggest areas of improvement. I don't feel like we give equal attention to less traditional roles, because I think historically our goal has been to enable equal and equitable opportunity and access for people who come from less traditional backgrounds to break into these more traditional fields that of what people classify as success. So to answer your question shortly, I don't think that we have a great layer of support system for those type of job opportunities and roles, but it is one of those things where we do think about every once in a while to say, hey, listen, like, how do we service those people who do come from those less traditional backgrounds? We do have mechanisms in place to service them, but it's definitely not marketed or positioned in a way where someone who is looking to go into sustainability is going to look at their website or our marketing to go, like Wonsulting's for me. So I appreciate you calling that out, because I think that is another reminder of an area that historically we have not had enough attention on.
So, and that's the interesting thing about it.
You're back. Oh, you're back.
Oh, I'm
you're
back.
back.
Wait a minute. Testing.
Received.
Beautiful.
Speaker into my headphones, please.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. There we go. Sorry.
Loud and clear.
Sick. Okay. Yeah, so we were thinking about this the other day, and I get asked this all the time. And actually, interestingly enough, I don't know if you can tell where I'm sitting.
The university.
So I'm in a classroom right now because I finished teaching earlier today. And
Incredible.
I teach social entrepreneurship in John Jay College, and it's a wonderful group of students. They're super diverse, like a lot of Arabs, people of color, like it's so awesome. I love this class so much. And it's a college of criminal justice, and they have a social entrepreneurship track. It's brand new. It's like 2-3 years old, because they've recognized that a lot of the students are coming to this school because they want to see a change in the world. And the justice system might not be the only lane they want to explore. So they've come up with the social entrepreneurship track. And now my job is to come in here and identify heartbreaks, which is why Neal asked you what your heartbreak was earlier, to identify heartbreaks and then coach them to transform the heartbreaks into breakthroughs. We work with the Sustainable Development Goals to harvest some language. We teach them how to map things, how to identify insights, and how to turn that insight into a value proposition and build a business plan around it. I'm seeing this next generation right before my eyes, and I'm also seeing the needs of, for example, the climate crisis over the next 10, 15, 20 years, and the types of jobs that are going to be needed by society. So we were talking about this, Neal and I, it's like, for Jerry and John to get way ahead of that curve and prepare their Wonsultant recipients to be as competitive in 10 years as they can be now. So that's something I think that we were talking about. It's like, dang, would be really cool to bring up with them to see, as people are coming to your site, they can also see how they can plug their capabilities into becoming renewable energy engineers, or if they're going into advertisement, how can they take the needs of emissions reductions into the boardroom where they're talking with their clients. Like, there's a supreme amount of opportunity to integrate that. So we wanted to surface it as a conversation, and also as as an offering, as you guys continue to expand and change the job market.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that, because I think it is really cool to have conversations like this where we can have discussions around, hey, listen, like almost like guessing all of our assumptions and sort of our priorities. That's one of the things that John and myself, try to get a ton of external feedback from our mentors. Like, for example, we have a monthly, like a quarterly sync with the COO of Qualtrics. We have like someone from who was a ex-Harvard, like guy went to HBS. He's now a Harvard career advisor. Now he's a huge shot in writing a book and everything. And we have this sort of panel of mentors who sort of help us second guess a lot of our assumptions. And so,
nice.
Amer, yeah, thank you for adding on to that. I think that's an incredibly important point of how we think about the less traditional career paths and how we should be thinking about servicing them. So, thank you.
Hell yeah.
I'm really interested, for our listeners. Because you've referenced it a few times: career coaches, mentors, sort of guiding lights. How did you find these people? Where, at what point in your career did these, did you either reach out or connect with them and establish a relationship with them that has manifested in what seems to be regular feedback sessions, lessons, education, but really kind of setting yourself up for success? Like, what was that process like?
I think it's just been from maintaining relationships with these individuals and staying in touch. I feel like a lot of people will meet someone, they'll network with them, and then they'll be like, okay, like, let's stay in touch, and then they never actually stay in touch. What we love to do is we love to keep track of who we connect with and also always send them updates of what we've been up to. And that's how we've been able to get a lot of recruiters and hiring managers who have been able to help us learning a lot of the insights that they've had when recruiting individuals, and then also with helping Wonsulting. And number two, a lot of the mentors and champions that we've had throughout our lives who have advised us when growing Wonsulting or just through our personal lives. So what I would say is definitely that staying in touch aspect of it has been important. And that's one of the most important parts of networking that nobody does. Like Jerry and I, we've connected with so many individuals from the past. Less than 1%, probably even less than 0.1% actually even follow up and stay in touch.
We've talked. Yeah, sorry, go on.
And the additional point there is, I think, having the humility to just say, listen, we don't know everything and we need a lot of help. And we know that you're an expert in said field. Destroy us, right? Like give it to us straight. And so I think that's one of the things that I think John and I try to always have in mind is just like lead with like a humble heart, making sure that we don't always assume we have all the right answers, because 90% of the time we definitely don't. And so that's why we try to hire smart people on our team to help us get to those smart people answers, because there's just no way that John or I have the intellectual capacity of our entire team, nor do we have the bandwidth to do all that.
The phrase that's ringing in my head is "the wise man admits he knows nothing." Yeah.
I definitely want to ask my human experience question, but you're onto something right now. Go ahead.
Well, we've talked about. You've mentioned a lot of different things, like a lot of to-dos. Follow up with your mentors, check in with each other, surveys to the team. There's a lot of things. Do you guys have tools and resources that you use that help keep you on your A game, keep you on track? Whether it's like let's just talk about some of the fundamentals that are like, I swear by this. Like, I have reminders and check-ins, and I use a project management system, or I have a little tiny elf that taps me on the shoulder every time I forget something. Whatever your system is, do you have one or many?
Yeah, I think we have so many tools. Like, we use like project management tools for like Trello, accounting for like Bench, and so on and so forth. But I think if there's one thing that continually keeps us on our toes, is just recurring calendar invites with mentors. I think that to me has always been the most helpful in making sure we hold ourselves accountable to say, in our mentorship call, it typically is like, cool, so like, what are you guys up to this past month? We talk about that. Cool, what are you guys up to next month? And so for us to have a recurring calendar invite with these mentors, I think it sort of keeps us on our toes to make sure that like, listen, that like we do have updates, that we are working on things that are important and aren't just going to be things like, yeah, so we just changed a couple things here and there, and that's it. And so I think for me, having that layer of accountability is extremely important, not only externally, but also internally.
That's really great. The relationship that you have with these mentors, the sense that I'm getting is they're getting something out of it. It feels philanthropic. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels that they're benefiting from the nature of the relationship, and dig what you guys are doing, because I think you have a very powerful mission behind the organization about really providing a leg up for those tools and resources, a leg up for those that might not really are coming from non-traditional backgrounds. And I think at its core, what I'm seeing is your core business model is based around that, serving that community. I'm curious to hear how is philanthropy being embedded in your structure? Do you guys give back in another way? Is there, are there sliding scales and mechanisms for that? Are there, again, going to the systems, are there systems in place to regularly give back? How do you sort of challenge yourself in that, in separating yourself from other corporations that might be doing this kind of work?
Yeah, I feel like Jerry and I, we give a lot back on social media, whether it's through lives, TikTok lives, Instagram lives, LinkedIn lives. And we do a lot of like free resume feedback through one of our forums. You check it out on our website. We do free resume feedback, specifically sometimes on our social media channels, on our stories, for example. There's a lot of different avenues that Jerry and I used to take. And actually starting Wonsulting, when we were starting Wonsulting, we used to have free coffee chats before. And we would just have it just to help so many people. And it's crazy to think about, because now a lot of those people have, number one, either landed jobs, or number two, even better, have given back to Wonsulting to help other people land jobs. So our philanthropic side of things for us at Wonsulting, it isn't anything established like, oh, this is Wonsulting's philanthropy. It's something that we should be considering in the near future. But Jerry and I will usually do it because we are, like as Jerry has mentioned, we are also content creators too. And how we give it back is we create this free content out there for the world to see, so they can be able to utilize it to get jobs. But there's some individuals who need that white glove hand-holding service, which we offer as well. But we've seen a ton of people land jobs through our free content. We've seen a ton of people land jobs in our paid content. Free content might take a little bit longer, might take 6 months, but paid content on average, when we work one-on-one with our team, when our team works one-on-one with individuals, takes average of 3 months. So it's literally half. So we see a huge difference between the two, and we're able to help through those two different avenues.
Yeah, and one of the things that John and I sort of always joke about is that, like, if someone had the time to like go through every single one of our TikToks and every single one of our LinkedIn posts and our Instagram posts and they took note of everything that we talked about, I guarantee you they could recreate Wonsulting. Like, 100%. Absolutely. And and listen, like, if anyone, hey, please keep us on our toes, right? But I definitely would plus one to John that I would probably estimate that we're probably giving up anywhere from about 10 to 20% of incremental revenue as a result of cannibalizing our own business through our free resources, through our free channels. One of the number one feedback that we get from our sales folks is saying that people say, well, listen, well, like, how much more different is the service, or in terms of the actual knowledge, is the service than what you guys share online for free? And we say, the core principles are all out there. It's just a matter of whether or not you want us to do it for you. And they say, you know what, it's not worth it for me. Thanks. I'll just continue watching your videos. And making that trade-off, we're okay with that.
Cool.
I love that. I love it's. I appreciate you guys as these culture builders. I see you as culture builders. I just want to offer that very brief reflection. I don't know if that ever resonates or something, that you guys see yourselves actually creating culture.
Yeah, I think that's again, it's one of those like things that we didn't know that we were doing, but I think that's a good way of putting it. I feel like as a result of us being one of the specifically John being one of the first to create and sharing his professional career and his job search tips on LinkedIn. And I think, John, you're definitely one of the first 5 to share on TikTok, specifically coming from an Asian male who's targeting people who come from non-traditional backgrounds. Definitely one of the first. And now if you go on TikTok and you sort of end up on that side of TikTok, you'll see that there's plenty of people who do it. And again, I don't want to take credit to say, hey, listen, we've inspired all these people. But I definitely feel like as a result of John doing this and showing people the path of saying, hey, listen, how easy it is to create content. And I remember John even personally coached people who were starting to create content. It is one of those things that I think at the core essence of what we do, yeah, we could try to gatekeep all this and say, no, like this is our territory, right? But if there's anything that we've learned through our personal and professional experiences, is that there's always enough to go around, yeah.
Well, this perfect segues into my last question, and then we have a little bit of a closing ritual for y'all. But I mentioned this to John as we had an intro call last week. In addition to culture creators, I also see you all as these like really wonderful proxies of you've just been exposed to so much of so many people on different ends of the spectrum, from those that are like radically focused and super know what they want, just need a little bit of tweaking, to those that need a little extra hand holding and everything in between. It's an open-ended question around what you've learned about the human experience. 5-second context, background as a DJ. I've played in front of tens of thousands of people in my career, and I've seen what it's like when people show up to a nightclub on Saturdays at 1914 in downtown El Paso because they know there's a burly-chested, non-threatening Arab American Syrian male who's going to greet them with a smile and who's going to welcome them and take their requests and shout them out for dancing. I've seen what happens when people feel like they belong in a place that, especially like in the nightclubs, like you're always trying to show up, right? Like it can be all this thing, but when people just let their guard down, they're having a good time, it brings a wonderful spirit to the room. It's a great feedback loop. So that's something I've learned about the human experience, right? And I'm wondering, like, what have y'all learned about the human experience given everything that you've seen and the people that you've worked with so far?
Light question.
Yeah.
Like not so much of the tactical side of things, right? But like, how about y'all?
Yeah, I would say with human connection, I think what happens a lot is like just treat humans like humans. Even though we're in like a virtual world, we still treat each other as human beings. I feel like there's this discrepancy nowadays where it's like, okay, and this is actually one thing, like personally, like for example, like some of my friends would be like, oh, you're an influencer, oh, you have such a high following now. Like, I'm still the same person, except I have a high following on social media. It's the same person. Like, treat each other like human beings. And I feel like if you're able to do that and not judge people based on the amount of followers that you have, but about the amount of impact that you can make, or just them as individuals, not seeing them just for being like an influencer, I feel like that human aspect of it needs to be shown for sure. So I'd say my quote would be just treat humans like humans.
Yeah. I'll take a slightly different approach here and sort of reflect on what I've learned about the human experience from job seekers. If I were to quantify what percentage, if you think about why someone is not getting a job, and you're trying to quantify why they are not getting a job, what percentage do you believe is because they don't have the right experience or right knowledge, and what percentage do you believe is because they don't feel like they have enough confidence or they don't feel like they're good enough?
Totally the second one.
Definitely the second one. And this is one of the biggest things that I've begun to realize, is that people who come from non-traditional backgrounds, they're not grown up in environments where they're surrounded by, hey, you're the smartest person, you can totally do it, you should 100% go for it because there's absolutely no harm, like you have everything to gain, the world's your oyster. And that's probably one of the biggest things I've learned with working with this audience, is that people will try to encourage people, say, hey, listen, just if there's that dream role that you have and you feel like you can do the job based on the job description, just apply. It can take 5 minutes, just do it. And majority of the time, so very surprisingly, you're going to hear, I'm not ready yet. I'm gonna wait 2-3 years and then I'll be ready. Almost as if they're like saying I'm not good enough. And to me, if there's one thing that I've learned about human psychology, at least as it relates into the job search space, that we do need to do so much more and instill so much better practices around enabling people's confidences. Yes, writing a resume is important. Yes, interviewing is important. But there's this whole psychological thing that's a little bit less tangible, that's a little bit less, you can't really see it, you can't really feel it. That to me is what I've learned, that confidence, self-confidence, self-rejection, and the job search process specifically is everything.
Well said. Well said. Is there something that, this is my last question, it's kind of a follow-up piggyback, but is there something that really enables your confidence when you're in a dip?
Hell yeah.
That you just like, I listened, leave it at that.
I think one is one thing that has been incredibly helpful for me, especially for me personally as a creator, as an entrepreneur, is just having someone who's going through it with you understand exactly what you're feeling, and them being your support system. And so for me, I think that's John. It's crazy because I think we're both creators. We're both trying to grow up. We're like, what, me? Me?
Oh, you shouldn't have. No.
Yeah.
Go on.
But I really do think so, that like, it's one thing for me to tell my parents and they'll say, hey, but Jerry, you're the smartest person I know. You're going to be successful. You do it, right? And I love my parents. And again, my mom is my biggest cheerleader. But I think it's another thing for someone who knows exactly what you're talking about, giving you the raw thoughts and just saying, hey, listen, whatever happens, man, like, we'll get through this. It's good. To me, that's everything. Having some, what I call like a bitching group, like someone that you could like bitch to, someone that you could like yell at and be like, oh my God, like this is happening to me. I feel sad. I feel mad.
That's
whatever.
John.
To me, that's John, as it relates to so many of these things, because I know that John understands. So that's for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say same for Jerry too. I remember I was in this rut in mid 2020 and I was like so down on myself, felt super burned out. And I remember Jerry was like, hey, don't worry, we'll make it through. And I remember right after that, it was pretty crazy because we had it was like 3 steps back, but like 20 steps forward. And we like launched like this initiative called Wonsulting Project 2020. And we helped like 2,000 people get internships. Then we increased our followers on LinkedIn by such an instrumental amount. Then we got on TikTok, grew to now Jerry and I combined 1.5 million followers on TikTok alone. And why I say that is because that would have never happened if Jerry inspired to push me and push us to keep on going despite hard times. And that's why we always say rejection is truly redirection. Even though we always say that for job search, it's also for your life in general. Whenever something happens, you just push yourself to keep on going. And the most important part about that is having someone or people around you who will keep on pushing you. And I feel like that's how Jerry is to me. But yeah, as you both can notice, like Jerry and I are we're very close in terms of like not only being founders, but really good friends. And I feel like that's really important, especially when running a company and a business. It's something where you can both be transparent with each other regarding feedback, and you don't take heart to it and like, man, like this guy hates me. I never feel that about Jerry, even though I know he wants the best for me. He asks me a lot of questions, and I'm always like, damn. And we always laugh about this because Jerry's like a type 3, and my girlfriend's also a type 3, so they always ask me questions, and I'm like, damn, like everyone always asks me questions. But then I realized both of them really want what's best for me. And I've realized that throughout the past year. And I'm like, damn, like that's how I've grown so much as a person. So I'm super thankful for that.
Yeah, I think that's I mean, that's a little bit of how you show love. Like you question, you challenge, you push. And I think in our last call, John, I think you were telling us that, or telling me that you've been asking Jerry some more questions, and that's a great thing. You know, that's and it it brings this truth that I think a lot of people often see the results of companies and people, you know, in high positions, and they think that they did it all alone. But I think this is really a testament that we anyone that thinks that you do things alone, it's foolish to think that. It takes a village. It takes the people around you that love you and care for you. And one of my favorite actually TED Talks. It's also a book, The Last Lecture. I don't know if you guys know Randy Pausch. He talks about this and he was someone that was like diagnosed with cancer, and he was like 3 months to live. He outlived, and he talks basically about um, essentially like how he achieved his dreams. And he says like, I'm okay with this because here's all the dreams that I had and here how I accomplished them. And the one that resonated with me most, where he talks about, he's like, he was a professor at Carnegie Mellon. He talked about how he always wanted to be a football player, and how that wasn't necessarily a reality. Like he's like, I'm a fit person, but I'm not going to be a football player. But I got the next best thing. I can always walk on a field and I feel great. I have fun. I'm in my zone. I can throw around and toss around a ball. And that's because he had this coach that when he was in high school, just kept on ragging on him. Like, do it again, throw it again, run a lap, do push-ups. And he, you know, the coach left, and the assistant coach, while they were leaving, you know, he turned to him and said, man, like, you're really lucky. And he's like, what are you talking about? The coach just keeps giving me shit. And he goes, man, it's the people that care for you and love you the most that give you the most shit, because they believe that you have the potential to change. The ones that see you doing something wrong and decide not to tell you believe that there's no actual potential for success. So realize that the ones that give you the most shit love you the most. And I think the ones that are, you know, and love comes in two forms. It comes with questioning and challenging, and also support. And it's about finding that line. But it seems like you guys have really found that line. And I think this is a really good segue into this last important part of what we do, which is, I think you guys are great at recognizing the thanks and the importance of in each other's lives. And I think you've given thanks to some other folks along the way. Is there anyone in either of your lives in a space that maybe thinking about it now that you haven't given thanks to, or deserve a little acknowledgement, that are important to you and who you are, and how, and in your life?
Yeah. For me, I would say, well, my family, of course. My mom has pushes me all the time because she's been the only working person in my family. She's a nurse, like most Filipino moms. So shout out to my mom and my parents and my brother and sister. I know most Filipino moms are nurses, so she took the traditional route. And then also, I would say I call him my uncle, but it's my dad's cousin's husband. My tito in Tagalog, for Filipino, it's called tito. He really inspired me to get into business. Actually, when I was only in high school, he was like running his own business. We did really well, and Jerry and I literally got lunch or dinner with him a few months ago.
That's right.
Uncle B, we call him Uncle B. So shout out to Uncle
That's
Brian.
right.
And he's helped a lot with advising us too on what to do with our business. So I'd say shout out to him.
Yeah, similar for me. My family, like without them showing me, well, one, giving me even just fighting through poverty, fighting through cultural, emotional barriers of staying in the U.S. I physically would not be here today. Um, my and so for them, I owe them everything. My brother, someone who has really taught and set the foundation for me to be someone who's studious, who cares about education and constant teaching myself and bettering myself. Who I haven't given enough thanks. Definitely, my girlfriend has been a huge emotional support system for me, because running a business and being a content creator at the same time is hard. And so having that emotional support system to say, hey, listen, I may not be able to understand what you're going through right now, but you want a hug? Like that type of thing is always really nice. Yeah, me too. And last but not least, I think is my friends. I'm someone who will do anything for my friends because as I thought about myself back in college or when I met a lot of my core friend group, like I had absolutely nothing to offer them apart from just being myself. And so as I think about my friends and the amount that they've taught me, the amount that they've shown me love and grace, I'm just forever thankful. So those three people, and of course my mentors, those four groups of people, I give so much love and support.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's a. We always like to end with this section too because it's just the people that. So many people just play a role in us getting where we are, and I don't know. We were talking about this before the show started, and we would not have met y'all if it wasn't for Taylor. So that's somebody that we
exactly
definitely
right.
want to shout out to and thank very much. And I listened to, we each listened to the interview that y'all had with her, and it was just so delightful. I was at home, I was working on an art project, and I was just listening. You guys were in my kitchen, and you had mentioned vision boarding, John, in the interview with Taylor, and that reminded me that I was in conversation with somebody on Facebook Marketplace about a printer because I just gave my printer away. And I got a new printer so that I could keep building my vision board because of y'all's conversation, Taylor, that you interviewed with them however many months ago that was. But it found life in me yesterday or whenever that was. So that was beautiful. Jerry, you had also mentioned in that interview that you wanted to start eating better and working out more or something like that. While I was doing push-ups, you were saying that.
He called me afterwards. He was like, "Jerry's like reading my mind, like right now from the past."
So
from the past,
funny.
yeah. I swear to God. And I was just like, I was like, it was amazing. And then I made a smoothie. So, Taylor, thank you.
Love it.
So, for those that don't know, Taylor is one of the people on the Leave Looking Up team. She's amazing, and she connected us with Jonathan and Jerry. And we have a surprise last-minute segment of the call-in. And so Taylor's joining us for a quick question to ask her mentors and people that helped her as one of the original 20 that you alluded to earlier, that helped her find her dream job at the time. And now she's moved on to such greater and bigger and better things like Leave Looking Up team.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's joining in for a second. She's been listening in and has a question to ask.
I have a question. Okay. Hi, guys. First of all, thank you so much for joining. So good to see you. And I've been just smiling ear to ear the whole time. The question is, what leaves both of you looking up?
Oh, look at you, Taylor. Out of here.
John, you're muted.
Yeah, I mean, looking up to the future, right? Just clarification.
Yeah, looking up. It could be looking up to the future, or what keeps you optimistic and positive.
Yeah, I mean, what keeps me positive is individuals like yourself, Taylor, who we've been able to help land their dream jobs or land a job. And I'm gonna give huge kudos to Taylor. Taylor was and is probably the one who stayed in touch with us the most regarding her own job search.
Following the lessons.
I know I mentioned regarding staying in touch. Taylor exhibits that mission, exhibits that phrase, because she, for example, we had the call, Neal and Amer, and Taylor actually followed up with me after, and she's like, "Oh, thank you so much for taking the call with them." I feel like Taylor she listened to all the strategies that we teach, and we love to see that. It makes me smile and happy. And I feel like in the past couple of months, I missed that because I realized it's dang, I'm optimizing a lot of content for views. But then I realized that it's having success stories like Taylor and the individuals that we've worked with one-on-one and seeing them land jobs makes me even happier. So as I look up, I would say I'm looking forward to helping more people land jobs and more of those success stories. And I'm looking forward to Taylor also, and everyone we've helped also paying it forward too to help so many more individuals. So that's what I would say for looking up.
Yeah, I mean, first, Taylor, hi. We definitely need to see each other while I'm here.
I'm coming
gonna
to
be
your
here for a long
talk.
time.
I'm coming to your talk.
Perfect. I'll see you there. So I think for me, what keeps me looking up is that our success is deeply rooted with the success of our community. And if our community isn't successful, then we're also not going to be successful. And so, very similar to John's point, I think what keeps us going is we get daily messages of people who are saying, "Hey, listen, just use your guys' services. Like, thank you guys so much. Like, you guys have no idea, like, the resume that you guys have given me, and now got me so many interviews." Or even people just saying, "Hey, listen, I appreciate you taking out content to speak to people like me because I just haven't seen that so far." So I think it's those things that help me keep myself grounded in making sure we're doing the right things, but most importantly, that we're ultimately still solving the same mission that we were trying to solve 4 years ago. So to me, that's what keeps me looking up.
Love it. Thank you, Taylor, for dropping in, listening. I'm so good, and for connecting us with these two incredible folks. We're arriving now at the last. The people have spoken.
Should I hop out?
Sure.
Okay.
You're welcome to stay.
You can stay.
We're approaching this last part, which is one of our favorite, the closing of a little bit of a rapid fire. And so you guys have 3 to 5 seconds, answer the questions as your gut and your heart responds, whatever it might be. Amer and I are going to go back and forth, and then we're going to wrap up. How's that sound?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Oh my God.
So, question one. Who is your inspiration?
Mom and dad. Yeah, I'll say my mom and dad. Yeah, same.
What is your favorite drink?
Water.
Kumquat juice. Actually, no.
What is your favorite number and why?
5. I can multiply 5 with anything, and I can tell you what the number is.
I would say 10. 10's my basketball number that I always wear. That's in basketball.
Summer or winter?
Definitely summer.
Yeah, summer for sure. I miss summer, and I'm in Vancouver right now. You know how it is.
Favorite flavor of cake?
Tres leche.
Didn't even hesitate.
Yeah, chocolate. Or tiramisu.
Ooh, tiramisu.
What was your worst subject in school?
History and social studies.
Reading. Now I'm good now.
We had to send him all audio files for this, voice memos. Biggest fear?
Failure.
Or what scares you?
Failure.
Yeah, failure too. Say disappointment.
And lastly, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
New York City, baby, let's go!
Oh!
Philippines on.
John's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Probably in the Philippines on my own private island.
Yeah.
Okay. Jonathan, Jerry, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing some wisdom. You're definitely going to leave me looking up after this. And so for everyone that's here and listening and tuning in, thank you so much. You can find out about Jonathan and Jerry on Instagram. They are all over the place and through Wonsulting. Jonathan, Jerry, if there are folks that want to get in touch with you, what is the best way?
Yeah, please message us on Instagram. Jonathan Words of Wisdom. Jerry's Jerry H. Lee. And yeah, if you're interested in any of our services, we work one-on-one with individuals. Definitely visit wonsulting.com/services. And we also have a lot of free templates and free resources on wonsulting.com/resources. Yeah.
All right. We'll tune out and see you guys later. Ooh.